Good morning. It is Saturday. It's a blustery Saturday. Uh, Very blustery, probably north of 25-mile-an-hour winds out here. It is March the 14th, and other than that, not too bad a day. We don't really have too much of an agenda today. We're checking for sign. We're in the local vigilance area today. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to get back up into Vermont, but just weather and things like that up there is still an issue. So at least for easy access and knowing, because I come up, because it's like a 3-hour ride for me up there. It's a matter of knowing where you're going to go and having some logistical preparations, and it's a little harder to do this time of year. So we'll start getting back into that within the next 3 weeks or so. But in the meantime, we're going to hit the trail up here and explore an area we started to a couple of weeks ago. Check for sign in there and see where things go. All right, thanks. And with all the snow melt, there's a mix of tracks in here. What looks to be potentially moose tracks. Stride's about right. Not very well defined because it's basically loose leaf litter. This stuff right here, and as you can see, kind of. Let me see if I can find one. Like right here. Hold on. There you go. Like right there. And not the most defined, but the stride's about right. So today we are going to walk up this trail. You may recognize it from last week, but we are going to kind of branch off from where we were. To the northwest, there is kind of a hard to find side trail. I don't know how many people have been down that way. Some parts of this are more remote than others. Yep, now you're getting better definition. Hold on, let me show you. This right here, use my foot for reference. You get a little more definition. That is definitely a moose track. Right there. So, yeah. We are trailing a moose there. The snow's all gone, which is why if you hear the swampy sounding steps of mine, there's more mud and water in here today than there is any real hint of snow. And so snow's gone. It's been a little milder this week. And yeah, one thing I did want to talk about, and this has got nothing to do with Bigfoot whatsoever. This has to do with the certain sickness that apparently, I'm not going to mention by name, we all know what it is, but heard from other things on YouTube that you get YouTube grumpy, or they have an algorithm in place where they're just like killing anything mentioning it in the way of screening out fake news. Which I guess I understand. The thing requiring some commentary, though. For the idiots that are freaking hoarding toilet paper, why are you doing that? Little known fact, brands like Charmin, Scott's, things like this, made in the USA, we're not running out of it. And it really has nothing to do with the virus. So, hand sanitizer, soap, that kind of stuff I get, but toilet paper is stupid. Call me a hypocrite, I have grabbed some myself just to make sure we don't run into some disrupted supply line because of hoarding morons, but I guess that kind of makes me one of them. Although I don't, not to the degree that I'm walking out of the store with 102 rolls. I basically grabbed the 12-pack on the way up because the store I stopped at actually had some. But 2 stores I've talked to say they'll have more in within the week, so it's not like there's a shortage of it. Like there's no shortage of mud here. This is actually quite swampy. Which is good in the fact that I'm probably minimizing the chance I'm going to have other people out here. There was somebody else out here walking their dog when I got in here, but they're gone. But regardless, yeah, that's just people being panicked and fear-mongered by the news, if you can call it news these days. I'll stop there. This is not a political channel, so we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Bird commotion over there. And over there. But, yeah, so back to actual Bigfoot related observations and the like. Just the other week, somebody had revisited the time-honored subject of stick structures. This is not a stick structure. This is a tree that broke off of that. Up there, if I'm getting the whole top of that. But there are those in the community who give way, notice I keep saying way, too much credence to stick structures. And I'm sure I'm upsetting a couple of you that, and why do they do this though? What is the underlying psychology behind people doing this? I call it wishful thinking. Because the inescapable truth of the Bigfoot phenomenon is evidence itself, let alone the actual creature, are damned elusive. And I mean, take for instance the moose tracks I just showed you. Those are the first ones I've seen in some time in this particular stretch of woods. It's nice to know that a certain local moose cow and her immediate family group are still here. Because it's just nice to know that the upper end of the Nutmeg State has wilderness like this. And there's a reason why I carry bear mace up here. Because we have all the large animals you would find in Vermont or New Hampshire. And, okay, that was a leaf moving. I actually thought I saw a moose up there. It's one of those things where you catch it out of the corner of your eye, and for a minute it looked like something very similar to 2009, walking along a trail, and I came up on the moose cow. She was just kind of casually grazing, and it looked like her head sticking out. That would have placed her directly between me and where I'm trying to get to. And a moment of one of us having to decide who's going to move. She trotted off to the side the last time, but it'd be cool to get her on camera if she was around, though. So yeah, those tracks are about within 7 days old, but how old within that scope, I don't know. It's been fairly mild for the last 4 or 5 days, so you know the amount of snow in here you can't really use as a whatchamacallit, a unit of measurement in the equation. I, for some reason, can't get that particular word in my head. Anyway, got a couple of thoughts in my head today. Sorry if I'm a little distracted. Times are crazy right now. But, so, stick structures. The weird ones, okay, pay attention to. Things like, I've never seen any around here, but like the large upside down trees that have been shoved in the ground. Those obviously didn't happen by nature. I give those some legitimacy. Things like tree twists that are like sufficiently large where they've obviously been acted upon. Those are obviously not a product of just wind blowing on them or snow load or something like that. Something was digging in here. Hold on. Something was digging all the way through here for something. No definitive. If it were a bear, because bears are out, it's been warm enough for them to be out and about. You think you'd see some claw marks in here. I'm not seeing that though. Maybe the moose, who knows? I say that because that is the one known animal that's been through here with sign of tracks and the like. So again, this is not a stick structure. This is the wind breaking that tree in half, and it happened within the last week because that tree was not down when we came through last week, I don't think. So the bad news for many of you is the vast majority of stick structure related things that you share on social media are very likely wind, snow load, or human manipulation, be it hunters, bushcrafters, or kids, or the like. The other thing that people don't really seem to want to consider the possibility of, and I think this is just vanity talking, or insecurity, or a combination of the two. Since stick structures have become such a commonplace thing in the Bigfoot lore in recent years, hoaxing is unfortunately part of the landscape. And what's easier, to make a fake track or have big clompers out here because people have gotten better at spotting those, or just, you know, making an elaborate pile of sticks out there. Also, not a structure, broken tree. In this area in particular, notice evidence of logging all around. So human manipulation as much as wind. This year not as much snow load because the amount of snow that the Nutmeg State has gotten ain't much. It was a dusting when we had any this year. So that's as good a time as any to remind folks it's not that cold out. Ticks are about. Permethrin your stuff. Put DEET on yourself. And don't forget to wash it off when you get home. Because ticks like neither. In fact, the first one will kill them, which is kind of why I like permethrin so much. If their marketing is true, and I say that having used it for about 5 years now, and during that time I don't remember ever pulling a tick off me, off my clothes anyway. I like the fact it doesn't just repel them. I like the fact it reduces the population. Because no one likes ticks. One could even argue they're self-loathing and hate each other and hate themselves. But anyway, I begin to ramble. We'll pick up with this again after we get a little further into the wood line since I'm going to take a break and get a little further cover some ground. But before we go, quick look around us. Kind of like nature reclaiming logged meadow kind of environment. So it's more scrub brush in this area. Probably popular with deer hunters, since you can kind of get in here and call in deer and coyotes and the like. Probably more successfully at night. And kind of at the edge of the logging area, and just the trails over there, we're kind of going to head into this for a little bit just to kind of have a look around. I apologize for the hucking. Allergies are prevalent this morning. It rained most of yesterday, and once the sun comes out, all the dander spikes. So the effects are what they are. Annoying, but not going to kill me. So, stick structures. Most of the stuff that you see on YouTube, I mean, half of it is so basic. And when I say basic, I mean basically explainable. You wonder if the person who's supposedly reporting it actually made it themselves in order to get some attention, because a lot of it's like so bad, it's almost seemingly like that. So I'm not calling everybody a hoaxer, but they're in any Bigfoot related information you have to allow for hoaxing, because it's unfortunately part of the subject, and because people don't take it seriously and they have more awareness now due to finding Bigfoot, which I think was a great pollutant in the community for a number of reasons. For all the people that harp on Expedition Bigfoot, finding Bigfoot wasn't really that great either, for a multitude of reasons. I guess we run out of stuff down here, but let's have a look anyway, since I haven't really. Also, furthering our trailing of the moose theory, we found a pile of moose leavings in between on the break, and took some photos of that for general research purposes. Doesn't look overly spectacular, just basically the moose is grazing on the loose grass and the like, because that's what was in the poo. And it may not be something a lot of people want to know about, but it is part of research. Scat is one of the DNA potentialities for Bigfooting. So you learn to recognize scat of other animals too, if only for practice. And the sad truth about a lot of Bigfoot research is that there is some tedium to it, and that, like things like looking at poo and the like, looking at tracks. It's not all going out and reporting all these great little stick piles that you made or found. I guess I'm going to get more militant about that, because I've kind of had that theory for a while. Yeah, I guess they ran out of logging interest at about this point, because at this point it's all thick and woodsy like again, although there's a lot of down shit in there too. Alright, so kind of at the edge of the logged area. At least they didn't disturb the old stone wall that's up the hill here, which is disrespectful for the folks that homesteaded here at one point. I do think there's some ethical considerations about that. On a more obvious nature of that point, I was in Vermont a couple of years ago, well, quite a ways ago, quite a time ago, but in an area doing an investigation on a report that was near Rutland. And in the course of exploring the area, I came across a family cemetery plot in the middle of nowhere. Basically, it'd be the same as finding it out in the middle of this, but it was immaculate. It was a family plot, a bunch of folks who all seemed to pass away at the turn of the century, like 1901 to 1905, something like that range. But Obviously somebody was keeping up the burial plot, because for being in the middle of nowhere, it was completely and utterly immaculate, very well kept. Whoever's doing that's doing a good job. Here's the stone fence I was referring to. Kind of goes down at an angle. We're going to get back to the trail and see how long it stays one. I think the only reason it is a trail is because the loggers made it one. But other than that, it's been fairly quiet today, minus the wind howling as it is. But so beyond stick structures, crappy Bigfoot shows, I did watch Letters from the Big Man for the first time, and found it, I guess I'll use the word interesting. There's a nice little arch for folks that are into structures, though, which are completely, to me, naturally occurring, but if you want to see more into it, then that is your right, I suppose. So I find a stable spot to walk over this lovely wall. And I go over that to this nice big flat rock over here, I think. But interesting movie for a couple of things. Some people would refer to it as being a little more paranormally minded, because the Bigfoot in the movie, other than being a little chunky, they didn't really need to make him pudgy like that. There's that weird tree again. Sorry, adjusting my sleeves. It was not your normal, I mean, it wasn't a crap movie like Abominable or Yeti, where it's a man-eating monster, or Snow Beast, although Snow Beast was better done than either Yeti or Abominable. But this one, I didn't not like it. It kind of had a weird pace to me. The movie starts out, and this isn't really giving any spoilers, it starts out just dropping you into this young lady's life, and she's going about her life. She's a ranger of some kind for the Forestry Service. And then all of a sudden they just drop Bigfoot into the plot in a way that just doesn't hurt the movie, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it doesn't really come to a conclusive end, but interesting. It wasn't really, I don't know if it was really meant for like cinematic effect. It was more showing the paranormal side of Bigfoot. And they touch on a lot of things like that. It was interesting, though. Not a bad movie, and even though it was kind of wooey, I apologize if some people don't like that term, but for being a little bit wooey, it actually was kind of refreshing in the way that it did some things. Now we're into the more woody side of this trail. It's still sort of a trail, but as you go further into this, it gets less and less like a trail. This is a new break, or at least new from the last time I was in here, but that was a couple of weeks ago. So things like that. The wind did that. Deal with it. Things like this. Another just honest tree break. I'm not really there are some things in the past have found some other things that are a little more interesting in the structure realm, and we'll probably find some before too long. But this area, again, with the loggers having been through here, that's my first suspicion, unless it's just a tree break or something. This broke, obviously just broke, right there. But you can see the woods are starting to close back up again. Like here's one, I guess. Kind of a proto-teepee, we'll call it. Right here. I really don't have any reason to believe that's anything that would be Bigfoot related. Also, doesn't help that this area's been fairly quiet for the whole winter. Yeah, it gets real thick in here, down the hill there. Let me just get a real quick point. That gets real dark and real deep, real thick, wood cover wise. And kind of follows the stone wall at the same time. It's still sort of a trail, but it's losing its trailiness. But it is kind of cool. It takes you right kind of like along the ridge line. Whereas otherwise the main trail takes you down the hill and into the backside. This kind of takes you along the ridge line. Or maybe the trail continues for a bit. Here's another potential contender for a stick structure. I don't believe it to be anything particular as far as intriguing. It's a snaggle of branches, really. However, if you are of the mindset that there's more to stick structures and all that, and you follow my channel, by all means, feel free to comment and give me your side of it. I'm not going to berate you. I am one of the few, there's not many of us, but I am one of the few Bigfooters that can actually agree to disagree and listen to your point of view, if only to understand it better. So there's that. Something was digging around in this. And since we are a little further back in here, good idea to be a little more bear aware. Because despite the wind, it's really not that cold out. In fact, it's not cold at all. It's hovering around 40, which with a fleece and underlying base layer of clothes, you're not cold really. More tree breaks. Also, because I'm walking, talking, and like walking on all this down leaf stuff, I'm not sneaking up on anything. It's kind of a weird dividing line here, though. And by that I mean tree type. You look over here, I can probably demonstrate this. This side is more, I don't know what that is, oak, birch, something. I'm not a botanist, so. Then you get over here, thicker, pineier, but right along the trail, you have a dividing line between the two different types of trees, at least for the immediate area that we're in. That gets real deep. You could easily have 10 Sasquatch in there looking at you right now and just standing still. You probably wouldn't even know they're there. So, even in the daylight, I'm somewhat more of an advocate of like using your ears than your eyes a lot of the time. What does this do? Okay, so now the trail doesn't go. It's going down the hill here a little bit. It's not really much of a trail. It kind of just stops there. And this looks like it attempts to keep being a trail going down into the more piney stuff. And how quickly the nature of the neighborhood changes. This is a little more creepy looking. I don't know if the camera catches all this, but notice how it's suddenly a lot darker, a lot deeper, a lot thicker in here. Hopefully it does, but it looks like it breaks up again down to the bottom of the hill. If the camera catches that, I'll try to zoom. Oops. Down there, if that catches that. Zoom back out. But yeah, we'll follow this for a ways and continue my thoughts on all things Bigfoot. So we've covered all that. Somebody also interestingly brought up the idea of the wood knockings, wood knocks too. Now, here's the thing: wood knocks are a thing. I've heard them far off, I've heard them up close. They are a thing. So it's like seeing a UFO. I mean, they're there. They are a thing. However, what's causing them? What's the underlying phenomenon? All right, we found the boundary with the land trust, but again, I will honor the boundary, although I've never seen anyone actually patrol this thing. And now the trail seems to want to just parallel the stone wall. But they are pretty explicit about they don't want people trespassing on their side of things, so we'll behave and stay on this side. Also, don't know if I've been down this particular stretch of woods before, this far down. So, kind of a new neighborhood. Nice thing, again, I've mentioned this before too, is you have the stone wall right there, so even if the trail ran out and you got turned around, that's a navigational marker you can use to get back to where you pick up the trail again in order to backtrack your way out. But what else? Yeah, movie was interesting. Not really a horror flick by any stretch. It was more, I guess I'd call it a drama with a weird Bigfoot subtone to it, but I'm also looking around for weird bits of sign. You are pretty far out right now. You got the stone wall and just all of this. You're beyond the logging area now and back into denser forest. And something tells me if I followed this far enough and it maintained itself as a trail. But again, it gets a little bit more, again, more creepy over there with more thick piney stuff that we're kind of paralleling right now. If you follow this all the way down, you might come out to the logging road at the bottom, but that's about a mile off. More down trees. But it is looking like the trail may be breaking up. We may be at the end of the line, which is basically what I set out to find. So if it is and we run out of trail, that's mission accomplished. But that being said, I think we are about there. We had a little bit of a hectic week, so didn't really have time to come up with a really goal-filled agenda this week, so we're kind of figured we didn't follow that trail all the way back, but I think we have now, because it goes to about where that down log is up here, and then I think we're about where we are going to get to without bushwhacking, and we're thick enough in here that if I got turned around, that could be a pain in the butt and a waste of an afternoon finding my way back to the area rather than just backtracking. But yeah, we are definitely on the ridge line right now. Notice how the the area down there gets really steep really fast, which might be why the trail ends. They didn't really want to. And there are those out there that might also say that the big feet put the things right like this here, like that's as far as you go. Actually, that would explain some things with a trackway I found in 2013. They were basically headed in this direction. Let's see if this continues though. Yeah, we're not really on a trail anymore. It just kind of breaks up now. And you can either trespass. Well, the land trust just ran out. We're back on state land. But the trail doesn't really seem to be there anymore. Kind of just broke up in here, and now you can like mountaineer in the direction that you choose, but see, state land again. But what I'm thinking though, minus the lovely tick population, getting all the way out here for a night op would be cool, because you got all that down there to kind of scope out. And because the boundary with the land trust right here, you get up on the hill further too. All right, we're going to start to backtrack though, and in the course of doing that, I may take a break yet again, rather than have this. You already saw the part that I was in, so maybe do another segment as we shift gears and we get back on the main trail or the logging area. That'll take a few minutes though.